Hi again. In this session we're looking at picking up stitches where you need to do them on some sort of shaping. So this is like a sample neck edge on a cardigan. So we're going to have a look at how we pick these stitches up. Well, the pattern might tell you how many stitches to pick up around certain parts of it. It will probably tell you how many stitches to pick up along this straight section here, and then it will say from there to the shoulder how many to pick up. You could, because we know how many we've got to pick up along that straight edge, we'll divide the rest of it into sections. Pop a pin in there and then divide that into half again, and so on, like we did before. But again, what happens if that doesn't actually work for you? What happens if you need to adjust how many stitches you pick up? Well, again, like on the flat rows, there are hints and tips to help you do that. So the first thing to do is we're going to pick up along this straight edge here. So we need to get the stitch right in the corner for the first column of stitches on our work. So that's that one. I will loop the yarn over and pull that through. So there's our first stitch. So we'll now pick up in the second one. So that's given us 2 stitches. We'll pick up in the third one. That's our third stitch. Fourth one. Fifth one. Sixth one, and there's one more there, 7th, because we had 7 stitches along that section. Okay, so there's 7 stitches picked up along the horizontal. Fairly easy. Okay, so what do we do about the slope? Well, this is what we do. I'm just going to use the other end of this needle to show you something first of all. Just move this out of the way for a minute because I want to show you something. What you need to do is find the next column of stitches going upwards. There it is there. Follow it all the way up. We've got decreased shaping going on here, but just keep going vertically up till you reach the edge. Can be hard to see sometimes, so there we go, we're going up there and there. That's where that column of stitches meets the edge. So I'm actually going to pick up a stitch in there. So you pick up a stitch in the top of the column of stitches. Okay, so that's one there. The next column is there where my thumb is, and that follows all the way up to there. So I'm going to pick up a stitch in there. Take the next one. That's this column of stitches here. That goes all the way up to there. So I'm going to pick up a stitch there. I know these seem quite spread out, but I'm going to explain that in a minute. And then we've got the next one, which goes all the way up to there. And the next one, which goes up to there. And then what have we got left? Well, this one here, this column of stitches goes up to, yeah, I will pick one up there. Sometimes you have to make a decision as to whether you need to pick one up or not. I think I've missed one there. So, yes, I have missed one there. That one, that top of that column. Okay, so I think we've probably done everything on the slope now, because that next column carries on up there. So we're now back on the straight. And remember what we do for the straight? We go into 3 out of every 4 rows for stocking stitch. 1, 2, 3, skip 1 row, that one, 1, 2, 3, skip that next row, that's that one there hiding, and then 1, 2, 3, and then normally you'd skip 1, but this is actually the end, and you have to put one in the end. So I'm going to go ahead and put a stitch in there. So that's my picked up stitches. Okay, I know it looks a bit weird here, and I'm going to explain what's going to happen now. I want to pull it out onto the cable to show you, to try to explain what's actually going to happen there. So let's come out a little bit. Okay, so we've got the vertical bit there, we've got the horizontal bit at the bottom, and we've got this bit here which is spaced out a little more. Now the reason for that is, if you think about it, when you're working this stitch pattern, these are going to go up, these are going to go across, and these have got to go from there sort of inwards, if you like. Mathematically, they've sort of got to come in to make all these come together and fit nicely. So they do need to be more spaced out on that shaped section at the beginning. And I have had people on my professional finishing techniques courses before and said that this technique is the one that's given them the best ever finish around a neck. So that is quite something. Let me just show you, I've got a smaller sample here that shows exactly what I mean there. Let's zoom in a bit more so you can see the neck really closely there. So we have these stitches here coming straight up, these stitches coming straight out. If I'd have carried them on, they'd have been a bit straighter. And these ones in the middle are more spaced out at the bottom there than they are at the top, because they've gradually brought themselves in to fit the rest. And that works really neatly. So you don't have to worry too much if your knitting doesn't work so well around the neck as the pattern says. Just go for it yourself. Again, you may have to consider stitch patterns. This is just a 1x1 rib, so I probably end up with an odd number of stitches required for that overall. But just have a look at what your next stitch pattern is, and you can do just a little bit of maths to help you sort that out. So there you go. One stitch for stitch along the bottom, one at the top of every column on this 45-degree slope here, and 3 out of every 4 on the straight section there.